The London Business Forum presents How to Build a Business Empire, featuring Felix Dennis. The event was recorded on the 17th of October 2006 at the BFI London IMAX Cinema. For information about other London Business Forum events, please visit www.londonbusinessforum.com.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Is this thing on? Let's hope so. The 19th century philosopher Hegel cautioned that a man over 50 years old should never speak in public for longer than he can make love. However, I intend to struggle on for my allotted 20-odd minutes. The subject chosen for me by the organisers of this gathering, the London Business Forum, is how to build a business empire. I can't tell you how to build a business empire in 20 minutes of speaking and 40-odd minutes of discussion. And I certainly didn't build my business, which I never think of as an empire, in 20 or 30 minutes. But I have learned how to make a lot of money. And I think I can pass on a lot of hints and tips and techniques that may be of use to many of you. I mean, what is the purpose of building a business empire if it's not to make all the money? Virtually everything I know about the getting of money is in the book that you're going to be given later. This book has done fantastically well. I'm very pleased to hear it. It sits today at the top of the Amazon UK Business, Finance and Law sales charts, where it's been for some time. A lot of what I want to share with you tonight comes directly from the pages of How to Get Rich, and I make no apology for that. There are only 3 valid reasons, ladies and gentlemen, for anyone not to be rich if they live in a Western democracy of one kind or another. These 3 reasons are: 1, I do not want to get rich. The thought appalls me. 2, I want to get rich, but I have other urgent priorities. 3, I am too stupid to get rich. There are no other valid reasons. None. All other reasons given are bogus alibis, or they are excuses. All this, of course, you already know, which is why you've come tonight. So can you get rich? Can you build your own business empire? Is it really possible for an ordinary Joe, as the Americans call him, or a Josephine, to become extraordinarily wealthy from a standing start? Is what I say in this book really true? Or am I just another charlatan? Am I telling you this now in person and in How to Get Rich, merely to add yet more money to my own pile? Is it a delusion to believe that so-called ordinary men and women can, within not so many years, do what I did? And what did I do? I went from being a failed blues musician and an art student, living in a crummy bedsit, without the price of a pint of beer in my pocket, let alone the money to pay my landlady the rents, into becoming one of the richest men in Britain, or so the Sunday Times Rich List tells us. I went from being a high school dropout without a penny of capital or the benefit of a university education to owning my own business, flying around in private jets, purchasing massive homes and estates with thousands of acres of land around the world, being chauffeured in a fleet of Rolls Royces and Maybachs and drinking the finest wine that money can buy from my own cellars. By the way, my advice on those private jets, just between you and me, is not to buy one when you get rich. If it flies, floats, or fornicates, rent it. It's always cheaper in the long run. And did the getting of all this money make me happy? That's the question I get asked on all these talk shows. No, it did not. But then very few people in the world are ever very happy for very long. I'm a poet, and I know that. And if we are going to be miserable for much of the time, then I would argue it's much better to be rich and miserable than poor and miserable. Or in the words of the jazz singer Ella Fitzgerald, honey, I've been poor and I've been rich. Trust me, rich be better. So no, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a charlatan. And believe me, the amount of money that one earns from books like How to Get Rich, even if they are bestsellers, is pitifully small. A few $100,000 at best. I would not have spent the time to write it and promote it if money were my main objective in writing it. I wrote it because what it tells you is true. You can be rich. You can build your business into an empire. You can do it. Anyone of reasonable intelligence who lives in a Western democracy can do it, given sufficient motivation and application. Anyone of any age, at any time, given that their health can stand it. Whether you will like yourself quite as much as you do now when you have done it is quite another matter. But you didn't come here to listen to me tell you how to like yourself. You came here to hear me tell you how to get rich. And the first lesson is that you can only get rich if you believe in yourself. To get rich, apart from the mirage of winning the lottery or receiving an inheritance, you must believe in yourself. You must believe it can be done. You must believe that you are the one to do it. For if you will not believe in yourself, then why should anyone believe in you? This is the catch-22 of the early years of trying to get rich. Absolute belief in yourself is vital if you are to succeed. Absolute belief in yourself despite all your faults, many of which you will not know. All your weaknesses, despite what your parents and teachers told you, despite what your colleagues and friends tell you, despite what your lover tells you, despite your own failures up to now, despite everything that life has thrown at you, if you will only banish fear and fear of failure to the darkest recesses of your heart, then I promise you, you can do it. And no one can stop you from doing it. Only you can stop yourself from doing it. We all fear failure. I fear it still. I have always feared it. But such fear itself is not the problem. It is the paralysis that comes from such fear, which is the real problem. The paralysis that grows into a mountain you shrink from climbing. That fear is real. The fear of embarrassing yourself, of people laughing at you, of letting down yourself and your family and your colleagues and maybe even your employees. The fear of losing the money that you borrowed or begged or stole. The fear of failing in the open, where there is nowhere to hide and no one else to blame. This is the fear you must confront. That you must entice, capture, chain, and eventually padlock into a secret chamber of your soul. It will still call to you. It calls to me. You will hear its echo from time to time. Believe me. But by then, you will be so far up the mountain, so close to the goal of getting rich, that its cries will only serve to spur you on, rather than paralyzing you with doubt and dread. So that is the second lesson to getting rich. Confront fear of failure. Confront it head on. Stare it straight in its feral eye. Wrestle with it. Master it. And master it as best you can. Batter it into submission and harness it into becoming your secret weapon. A goad, a scourge to keep you working longer hours than your friends can believe. Harder than your colleagues can comprehend. Harder than you ever dreamt you could work. In the years to come, you will thank that fear. The fear that drove you to achieve what you feared was impossible. But it isn't. I am not a very clever man. I know that. And God knows I've been told it often enough. And if a mug like me did it, then believe me, you can. Now let me end with 2 short items from the book, from How to Get Rich. The first was carved in a temple of rock in a desert city of stone, inhabited for over 800 years by bandits. The carving is still there. It was carved nearly 3,000 years ago. It is a monument to human folly and to greed. And it is as true today as it was then. Thus spoke Al-Qutb, god of the Nabateans. Ah, thy children of thy children shall forget me, and my name, it shall vanish from the mouths of men into the dust of the world. And yet thy children's children's children shall worship me unknowing, while the rich seek after what they need not, while the poorest curse at what the rich store up, and while the cries and lamentations of men reach up into the heavens. All shall be as it was, I promise you, from now until the end of days. Aye, and it still is. And now, for those of you who don't care about doggerel or poetry, or don't care about things written in stone temples on the Silk Road, here's a slightly more cheerful piece of doggerel for me to end with, which is in the book, and it's written especially for those of you determined to fall in the category of richer rather than the category of poorer. How to get rich. Good fortune. The fact is, the more that you practice, the harder you sweat, the luckier you get. Ideas? We've had 'em since Eve deceived Adam. But take it from me, execution's the key. The money, just pester a likely investor. To get what you need, you toady to greed. The talent, go sign it. But first, wine and dine it. It's tedious work with a talented jerk. Good timing. To win it, you've got to be in it. Just never be late to quit or cut bait. Expansion, it's vanity. Profit is sanity. Overhead begs to walk on 2 legs. And the first step, just do it and bluff your way through it. Remember to duck. Godspeed and good luck. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Felix. Just before I throw it open, I'm intrigued, as people will be when they read your book, that on the inside cover, inside jacket, you have a series of cheques made payable to the Inland Revenue.
I do.
Ranging from 117,000 to 7,863,000. I won't fill it all in. What are these cheques about?
The cheques are about the fact that, very foolishly, it's a tribal thing. I support the Labour Party. And the cheques are there because I don't have businesses in the Cayman Islands, because I don't funnel my money through incredibly labyrinthine, interlocking series of companies so that I avoid paying any tax in this country. As, for example, a gentleman who shall remain nameless, who owns at least 4 of our national newspapers, who has never paid a single penny of tax in this country ever once in his goddamn life. I don't like paying tax. I hate paying tax. What sensible person doesn't hate paying tax? And we're ridiculously overtaxed in this country. We've gone from an excellent position 10 years ago, 9 years ago, to all these stealth taxes, stealing and robbing in every possible way. Totally counterproductive. But I will not cheat my government, and I will not cheat the people that live in this country. I pay my taxes, even though I moan and whine about it.
Good. Well, if we're going to get answers like that to every question, we are made for an evening and we won't want to leave. Could I just ask, please, that we can have this lectern moved so that the people here can have a clearer view of Felix? And can I ask who's going to ask the first question?
Can I ask the first question?
Yes, indeed. Can you hold on while we get a microphone to you? We have 3 microphones, but with all these stairs, no matter how...
I need a microphone.
No, you do, because people at the back won't hear you.
They won't hear you.
It's not you, it's people at the back.
Okay. Excuse me for not standing up. I enjoyed your presentation. I'm not sure you're going to answer this question.
Sure.
And I'm also not sure you've ever had it asked before.
Okay.
But the entrepreneurs I work with, Felix, all suffer from attention deficit disorder. And my question to you is, do you suffer from ADD? And if you do you take Ritalin?
I don't know what Ritalin is, but I'm sure that I'll...
It's a drug given to hundreds of thousands of children in the USA who apparently have ADD to calm them down, tone them down, so they don't have the characteristics which you display in your presentation.
Are you a doctor or a psychiatrist or a psychologist or anything like that?
No, I'm just an
okay,
ordinary
thank you.
person asking...
Thank you.
Well,
thank you.
I'll answer the question. I mean, first of all, it's amazing that human beings, got where they were. 5,000 years ago, 3,000 years, 2,000, even 100 years ago, we weren't feeding our children vast quantities of, whatever, to keep them on a level. So I've got no idea what all that's about, but I do know that the pharmaceutical industry is one of the most powerful industries in the world. Would you like to hear a nursery rhyme?
Yes.
Ba ba, AIDS sheep, have you any pills? No, sir, none for my ills. None for my symptoms and none till I die. The company that makes them charges way too high. So that's what I think of the pharmaceutical industry, except when I'm ill. I don't have attention deficit disorder. I employ large numbers of people that are much smarter than I am to keep tabs of where we are. And I've never been ashamed of turning to people and saying, I'm sorry, I've forgotten. What were we doing here and what's this meeting about? I don't mind doing that. Did we really agree that, the last meeting? Because I don't have one of the world's great memories. But if you've got people you trust working for you, and they're smarter than you are, and I insist that the majority of people at Dennis Publishing are smarter than I am, then you'll very rarely be let down. But I think what happens with some of the entrepreneurs that you may have met is that they're trying to do too many things at the same time. That's perfectly understandable. I mean, it's completely understandable because they're desperate. Entrepreneurs are desperate people. They're absolutely desperate to succeed, and they will do whatever it takes. And if that means doing too many things at once, and they often come off much, much worse in public than they actually are. I mean, I can tell you as a matter of stone cold fact that Richard Branson is actually a really nice man.
Thank you.
Just briefly, that interests me because of the entrepreneurs I work with, they don't even come within 100 miles of a book, and you've actually written a book.
Can I just say, the entrepreneurs that you've... What's your name?
Brian O'Connor.
Brian has met don't come within 100 miles or 100 yards of a book. And
if I give an entrepreneur a book, it disappears down the toilet or whatever. And to think of an entrepreneur actually writing a book is so totally out of character.
I think what you need...
Brian is making the point that most entrepreneurs don't actually write books.
Right. Well, it's very, very simple. I mean, all this book can do is give an edge to people that are determined to make money anyway. I can't make people determined to get rich or to build a decent business. I can't do that. I mean, in the end, it's within them or it's not within them. They either have that desire or they don't. If they do have the desire, all the book can do, and it will do, it will give them an edge because the book is actually full of my business errors. The whole point of How to Get Rich is not Felix Dennis's greatest hits. It's Felix Dennis's losing Looney Tunes, the times I screwed up again and again and again. And I've done that to try and give people hope. Because when you first start out to try and start your own businesses or you're working, you've been given a division inside a much, much larger company and you've got to make a success of it, what tends to happen is that failures do happen and people lose faith, they start to question, whether they're on the right track and so on and so forth. And if they just knew how many errors people like me have made in our lives, they'd feel pretty differently about it.
Would you agree, Felix, that inside big companies, it's almost like personalities and ideas and the sort of belief that you talk about get squashed, and there seems to be a slight catch-22 that to build a business empire, I know you don't say you don't, but people here who want to, it's almost a complete opposite of what businesses are like, this sort of belief. What can these people do to get this thinking into organisations?
It depends very much which direction they're coming from. You're like one of those South Korean, North Korean traffic cops. The pretty girls with the, aerator shades who are moving left, right, and centre and trying to stop, go, stop, go. If we're talking about people that want to start their own business, we're talking about something completely different than from somebody who wishes to succeed from within a large company. So if we're talking about somebody going to start their own business, there's only one piece of advice I'm going to give them, and that is, for Christ's sake, start it now and get on with it. And stop making millions and millions of excuses why it's going to be next year, the year after that, or the year after that. There's always going to be a million reasons why you're not going to start, David. It's as simple as that. If you're within a large company, there's only one reason you should be within a company, or any company for that matter. You're there as a spy. You're there to suck the marrow out of everything they've got, learn it as fast as possible, buzz off, get a bit of capital and start applying it for yourself. I mean, who wants to sit there, making the BBC rich? Wants to sit there making Shell Petroleum rich? This is insane. Why? Why would you do it? There is one reason why. Security. Security. That nice, regular, fat salary check. That fat salary check is the worst, give me the right word, something that stops people doing something. It's the worst impediment. It is the biggest impediment to people becoming rich. They con you. They con you with these salary checks. What they're really saying is, work hard for us and we will look after you. Well, the days of looking after you, working for one company from cradle to grave, are long, long gone. So when you go into a company, from my perspective, you go in there as a spy. You go in there to figure out how this company works, how this business works, to meet as many people within the industry as you possibly can on your boss's buck, and then to go out on your own. And remember one more thing about that. Team spirit. Let's remember team spirit. Team spirit is the glue that binds losers together. Aye. And it is. And it is. But I'll tell you one other thing. All the people that work for me know this. And do you think that makes them work any less hard for me? No, it does not. They work just as hard, even harder, because they realize that as their boss and their board is completely open about this, and as many of them do have such ambitions, or some of them do have such ambitions, and as many of the others have no such ambitions, we can very quickly sort out, the hyenas from the wolves and the sheep from the llamas. That wasn't a very good...
Anyway, a new one then.
It's because I'm a farmer and whatever. Anyway, I am a farmer.
Sorry, can we move on and just get another question? Sorry, you had two. Can we just... Yes?
Have you encountered any business failures? And the second question is, how do you deal with spies within your organisation?
It's very, very simple. I can deal with the second one really first, okay? The spies in my organisation, the young men and women, they're usually a bit younger than, the 40-year-olds. By 40 or 45, it's pretty rare, Those ones, I encourage them furiously. They're the ones, the ones that are in as spies, the ones that are there really just to get all the experience they can so they can get rich later, they're the ones I promote. They're the ones I desperately put in charge. I load them up long before they're ready. They're the ones that I work until they drop. And they will accept any amount of punishment and work so that they can learn more.
Sorry, what did you say? Can you speak into the microphone?
I said, do you give them fat salaries?
I don't see the point of giving anyone a fat salary. I pay them as little as I can get away with, but there are lots of competing companies, and so I have to pay them. I give very big bonuses. you know, like those big fish at the bottom of the ocean, you know, in the deep ocean, that are just huge mouths and a starveling body. You know, they're just on the bottom of the ocean, these massive, great mouths, because there's no food down there, catching everything that falls, but they haven't got a body. Well, Dennis Publishing is like that. You know, the body bit is the salary, but the mouth is the bonus. You know, I like to pay on performance, and we do pay on performance. I love people leaving my company. I love them to get on. I absolutely adore them going out there and showing my other managers what prats they were not to have kept them by giving them, you know, more responsibility. You won't lose anybody if you keep on giving them more and more responsibility. In the end, if you keep on loading talent up, it will stay, because it can't resist the challenge. You know, everybody seems to think that it's the money that bribes you into staying where you are. Well, it is for the majority of people who are not going to do anything. It is. But for those exceptional individuals, by giving them fantastic new opportunities and responsibilities to learn and to take on new challenges and stuff like that, you'll keep them until you can't find any new challenges, and then they'll leave you. So I love them. I welcome them in my company, and I worship young talent. I worship it.
What about the business failures? Have you encountered any business failures?
What do you mean, how many business failures? Look, I'm going to tell you this. This book will take you about between 6 and 12 hours to read, depending on how fast you read. And about 3 hours of it is going to be about my business failures. So I assume everyone wants to get home tonight. I mean, I've made the most appalling failures. And I've put some of them in the book.
What's been your biggest failure?
Sorry?
What's the biggest one?
Do you mean an individual deal or a big failure, you know, something I should have done that would have changed the direction?
Yeah, that one. Because
that one. I got comfortable by being a very, very clever dick in a very small pool. The magazine business is a very, very small business by media standards. Very small business. Now, I mean, what is the magazine business? The magazine business is about chopping down thousands and millions of specially grown trees. Let me just tell you, all the trees in the magazine business are specially grown. They wouldn't have grown in the first place if it wasn't for the magazine industry, paper industry planting them. It's a crop. So we chop down hundreds of thousands or millions of trees. You know, we turn them into pulp. We put hieroglyphics on both sides of them. Then we get gas-guzzling trucks to carry them all around the country. We sell 50% of them. Then we get more gas-guzzling trucks to carry them all back and turn them into cardboard boxes for your refrigerators. That, in essence, is the magazine business. It's a 12 to 15% margin business. It's rubbish. Do you think I would allow a child of mine to go into the magazine business? You must be out of your mind, you know. So what happened was I thought that I'd fallen in love with the magazine business. I thought I loved the magazine business. Actually, I didn't love the magazine business. I loved the fact that the magazine business allowed me to swan around in a very small pool. And it was only when I realised that I was wasting my time swanning around in a very small pool and started to go into much bigger businesses that I finally began to get cheques written to me, you know, with 9 digits in the cheque.
So when people say Maxim made you rich, that's
Maxim
rubbish.
did not make me rich. A little company that no one's ever heard of called Micro Warehouse Inc. delivered me $300 or $400 million in cash over a 6-7 year period, because it was outside the magazine industry. What it was, it sold hardware and software, both through a catalogue and through we were the world's first hardware and software internet e-tailer. There's a name that the older ones amongst you haven't heard for the last 5 or 7 years, an e-tailer. So you know, all these people that bought it from me, it was a big public company that bought us out and turned it into a private company. They all thought that because we were one of the world's biggest e-tailers on the internet, that they were going to own the internet because they bought Micro Warehouse. They paid $750 million for a pup. Company's not worth about 20 million bucks today. So that was the good thing I did, but I don't write about that in there. I only write about the errors. You know, not acting quickly enough, listening, you know, not listening to the people on the ground, sitting around too often with people in boardrooms instead of going down to the post room, where the boys and girls sorting out the mail will soon tell you what it is that people want to read and what they don't want to read. You know, keeping magazines going when I should have shot them, you know, or even better, sold them to my rivals very quickly indeed, because they were going down the pan. No, we have to sort of trudge on, you know, trying to keep them alive, you know, and all that kind of stuff. The errors are endless, absolutely endless, and it's the ability not to continue to make error that makes the difference between somebody who is semi-rich, like me, and somebody like Richard or the EasyJet guy, who will in the end, or one of them already has, become, I mean, seriously rich. You know, you're talking about 2 billion quid. That's serious money, not 4 or 5 or 6 or 100 million pounds.
One more question. While we're taking the question from them, please put your hand up for the question. I'll come back to you, Brian. Right, while we're taking the microphone there, you wanted to make a very quick point about failure, I think.
Thank you very much.
That's a pleasure.
I appreciate you coming back to me. It's very, very quick. You spoke about what drives an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I would say, I would submit to you,
Yeah.
it is fear that drives an entrepreneur. And if you don't have the fear, you will not become an entrepreneur. Now, you use the word...
Well, there's two types of fear, isn't there? There's
several types of fear.
Yeah, well, there's many types of fear.
You use the word desire.
Yes, well, there is
What I'm saying
desire.
is fear.
Okay.
Just in case you can't hear what's going on here at the front, there's a debate about whether it's fear that is the main driver or desire.
Okay. And of course, as usual, it's both. Because on the one hand, everyone desires to be rich. Let me just ask this question. I'll come right back to it. I won't. No. Let me just ask this question. Just think for one moment. Is there really anyone sitting in this audience who would turn down or immediately give completely to charity, let us say, a £10 million bequest from an uncle you'd never met? So you get a call from the lawyer, he says, I've got wonderful news, out of the blue, you never met him, he's dead already, you're never going to meet him, you can't thank him, but here's 10 million quid. Is there anyone who's going to turn it down? One. Any more? Fine, well, we've got Mr. Difficult down here, but...
No,
I'm
trying to...
No, I understand, okay. So most people are not going to do that. So, the truth is, all of you really want to be rich, right? Yes. I didn't hear you. Yes. Right.
Can we...
Okay, now we come back to the fear and the desire.
Oh, yes.
What stops you being rich is your fear of failure. Your fear of making an ass of yourself, the fear that people will laugh at you, the fear that you will lose all your money, the fear that you will be exposed on a stage with a spotlight, the fear that you will let other people down, the fear that you will waste all the money that you managed to borrow, beg or steal. That's what stops you, and the fear that you're no good, that you can't do it, that you're not worth it. Well, that's your problem. If you deal with that problem, you will become rich. And it's the desire to get rich, which we just saw expressed 100%, if you'll forgive. So there's your desire, and there's your fear.
Can we just prove that it's not just people in the front row who ask questions? Thank you. We've got somebody there. Who wants to ask the one after that, please? Put your hand up now, and we'll get a microphone to you now. Thank you. We've got one there, and then this lady here. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Ian Thomas. I've got a company called Sugar Media.
OK.
We publish Student Times National Student Newspaper.
Good for you.
Products. My question is, we've grown organically. We've never taken any investment. We're profitable. Everyone tells us we should take investment. Do you think that VCs and investment is a good route to go, or do you think we should just carry on growing organically?
There's a whole chapter in this book that deals with the various ways of getting money. Could you wave your arm so I can just identify you? Yeah, thanks. There's a whole chapter here dealing with the obtaining capital. In fact, there's a section. It's not just a chapter. And the bottom line is that venture capitalists, I'm sure, are perfectly decent human beings, and I'm sure that they love their children and dogs. Certain of it. Apart from that, I've got nothing to say about venture capitalists except that they want to eat you alive, spit out the muscle and bone and digest you and move on. To them, you are nothing but a piece of flotsam on the sea of capitalism. And it's their job to wring you dry and to... If you make 1 million out of this business, they will have made 6, maybe 10. However, sometimes, as I do explain in the book over and over again, they're the only source. But they should only be the only source the first time around. I can see that you're a young man.
37.
It doesn't matter. 27. You're a young man. What are you talking about, brother? You know.
Almost 40.
It doesn't matter if the first time around you only make $500,000, or you make $1 million, and they make 7 or 10 million. You'll have learned a tremendous number of lessons. You'll have some capital, and the next time around, you won't be at their mercy. There are other ways I explain in the book that, astonishingly, you can grow the business in what you called by using organic methods, almost like self-levitation, pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps.
Yeah.
But it's real hard. It's real hard. If you can, borrowing money from a non-venture capitalist, including once you know you've got a good idea and you're not just pretending, once you know, including family, friends, including people in the business, it's much, much better, for example, to get a printer to give him some part of the business so that he prints your magazine for free. Do you see what I mean? Than it is to go to a venture capitalist. But they do have something apart from money, VCs. They have incredible management talent. They will use that management talent to rob you blind while they grow your business. But they do have incredible management talent.
Are there any venture capitalists here? OK. That's
what they think about entrepreneurs. Not one of them bothered to come here.
Well, they haven't put their hands up. Yeah. Right, we've got a chap here and then the lady behind, and then some few questions at the back, please.
Sure.
In view of, you were talking about the stealth taxes earlier, do you still support the Labour Party? And the second question is, with all the money that you have, with your private planes, your boats, and anything else that you might want to rent,
excellent.
Does this in terms of happiness, what makes Felix Dennis happy now? Do you have any religious convictions?
I do explain in the book. I'm not going to bore everybody with it, but I do explain in the book the only few things that consistently make me happy. I am pretty much a regular guy, actually. I am. That's the awful thing. I have a talent for writing poetry, but apart from that, I'm a regular guy. And the same things make me happy as make you happy. My trouble is, I don't know when to quit, and I can't quit. I can't quit because I'm like those. It was like, do you remember those of you old enough? And the saddest things in the world was watching Frank Sinatra, come on stage at the end of his career. This was a man who had a better voice than almost anyone except jazz singers, in the 20th century. To watch Frank Sinatra come on stage when he was 75 years old, with all the moves, all the timing, all the chat, and everything but the voice, was one of the saddest, things you're ever going to see in your life. And he couldn't quit, because he still got the applause. Most of his audience was 80 years old, it was true, but he still got tremendous applause. And he couldn't quit the adrenaline.
We'll come to the second part.
And so, I think that the answer to your question is, I've compartmentalised my life. So there's a part where I'm, writing poetry 2 or 3 hours a day. There's a part where I'm giving back to the British people. I don't mean paying taxes. That's my duty, not my pleasure. Where I'm, creating, a forest in the heart, in the Midlands, in the heart of England. And then there's another side of me that wakes up every morning and says, I wonder whose arm and leg I can rip off so I can get some more money.
And on that last part, have you always had that, or did it come at a particular time? Was it a particular, like your illness or going into prison?
No, it came. It wasn't always there. It grew as it grew as I had some success and got richer, and then I met people. And you don't have to do a deal with a person to learn, a fantastic amount. And I met people. I met Jim Slater. God almighty. Very, very few people in this audience, know who Jim Slater was. Let me tell you. That guy literally could have sold refrigerators to Eskimos. And he was a robber, and he was a thief, He was wrong. But the power of him, you know, was just... and I met Robert Maxwell. I mean, what can you say? A guy that stole from his own pensioners. Well, there isn't any lower act if you're a capitalist. That's about as low as it gets, brother. But if you'd met him, the sheer, raw, naked power of the man. He was a bully. He was a rotter. Everything about him was wrong. I worship the ground he walked on. That sounds shocking, doesn't it?
You asked a question about the Labour Party. Did you want to...
Yes, in view of the stealth... It's gone.
Oh.
Don't worry, don't touch it.
Maybe we don't
One,
like
two, one,
yes.
two.
That's it.
In view of the stealth taxes that you were saying from the Labour Party, do you still support the Labour Party?
It's a tribal thing. It's absolutely stupid. I would say, you know, I would say it's on a level of cretinism. But I had a life-saving operation when I was 3 years old. And that was paid for by the National Health. There's only 1 inch of difference between the Conservative Party and the Labour Party. And today there's no inches of difference. But there's only 1 inch of difference between the Labour and Conservative Party. And I still believe that in that inch is where most of my friends who didn't get rich live.
Thank you. The lady behind. And then who's going to ask the next one after that? The chap there, and then
The lady up
the person
there.
there. Yeah. We'll get to you all, please.
Hi. You said before just to go for it and drop the fears.
That's right.
So I'm in the process of doing that.
Right.
Could you give me just key concrete things that one should have in hands before quitting a full-time job?
Yes. 1. Clear the deck. You've got to clear the deck.
What do you mean?
I'm coming on to it, David. There's no good you know, quitting your full-time job and going out into this business, whatever it is. There's no point in doing that. If you are going to have husband, boyfriends, girlfriends, mother, moaning, whining, constantly sapping your confidence, constantly pouring negativity in your ear just to try and get you back to earning that nice, safe salary check. I understand. My own mother, even today, sometimes asks me when I'm going to get a proper job. So, you've got to clear the deck. The second thing you've got to do is you must have a clear understanding. I'm not talking about some business plan, but you have to have a clear understanding what it is you're trying to do. And you must understand, step by step, how you are going to do it. I'm going to do this. If that fails, I'm going to fall back and do that. Then I've got to do this and I've got to get that. You have to have a clear methodology in front of you. That does not mean you're creating a business, one of them ridiculous things that I receive about 40 a week of. You know, business plans telling me, you know, how we're all going to become multi-billionaires. Never mind all that. You have got to have a clear understanding of what it is you're going to do and the steps you're going to take to do it. And then you have to, I don't know if you're going with a partner or just entirely on your own. Go to a place. Go to a place on your own. I don't care where it is. I don't care if it's in front of your chimney or you go out in the middle of the New Forest. I don't care. Go to a place. Swear to yourself, I will not give in until they bankrupt me. Swear to yourself. It will hold you. You understand? When the going gets rough, when there's nothing left.
Sorry, we've got a number of people at the back with their put their hands up first, and relying on the microphone people to signal to get these people in the right order, because we've got about...
We've got plenty.
Okay.
Give them some time.
Yes, back there, yes.
Some of these people have had a lot of money. Give them time.
I think they want to find out whereabouts in the New Forest. Where's this tree that you've planted? I'm off there afterwards, yeah.
Well, I'll start off by saying that I'm actually one of your extremely young and talented Dennis staff. And secondly...
Can you wave your hands in the air so I can see you?
Well,
there we are.
So
okay.
was that before the... Have you just joined now, or...?
6 years.
6 years.
Yeah. But my second question is, you said earlier, just pester a likely investor. Mm-hmm. If I had a business idea, how long would I have to pester you before you invested?
Me, I'm bad to pester, because I've pestered so many people that I recognise all the signs. But there are many, although I know you find it impossible to believe, but actually, because of what's happened over the last 10, 12 years in Western democracies, there are monstrous amounts of money sloshing around in buckets, earning pitiful amounts of interest. Pitiful. I mean, their owners are distraught. They don't know what to do. In fact, they're so mad that they give them to hedge fund managers. I won't bother to tell you what a hedge fund is, but let me just tell you, the only person I ever heard who got insanely rich from a hedge fund was a hedge fund manager. There is a world of money out there. Massive amounts of money. There are trusts that hold money. There are pension people that hold money. You can't even believe the amounts of money that are sitting idle doing nearly bugger all. You've got to bang on doors. It's no good coming to Uncle Felix. I'll just promote you. I won't make you rich, honey. I won't make you rich. You know, in the end, you've got to get out there and you've got to get the money. You know, you've got to... It's the worst part of the whole business. It's all in the book. I'm just telling you. There's a whole chapter here where I talk about when I'm wandering around London. I've got a beautiful girlfriend. She's saying to me between the lines, I've had my electricity cut off, my gas has been cut off. I'm heating myself in the middle of London in 72. I'm heating myself by throwing old furniture into my fireplace in my Soho flat. The cigarettes I'm smoking are hers. The food she's just brought in, she can't cook anything because the electricity and the gas is off. So the food she's brought in, she bought. The only thing I got is my telephone because I would have walked naked in the street before they cut off my telephone. In any case, in those days, it took like 4 months to get your telephone turned back on again. So I don't know how to tell this to you. The worst part of it is going around and getting the money, just any money, to start with. But you've got to go through it. It's like a test. It separates the wannabes from the gonnabes. If you can pass that test, then you will soon be turning around to your managing director, your CEO at Dennis Publishing, and seeing whether he wants to stop being a loser and join your company with a small piece of the action.
She must have been a very loyal girlfriend all those years ago.
She wasn't loyal, absolutely, because when I refused to do it, she walked out and left me flat.
Oh, that answers my next question.
Jesus, David. Ooh. You trying to get on television or what?
Right, yes. We've got a microphone? Yes, great, thank you.
So if you're going to fight till the bitter end...
We're not fighting to the bitter end, we're just going to get rich.
Okay, so if you're not going to give up and you're going to say that you're going to work at it and believe in yourself until they bankrupt you.
Yeah.
Do you ever resign to yourself and say, I'm making a business mistake?
Yeah, sorry about that. It's one of these technical things. I'll just put this in my pocket and hold this stupid microphone.
Put it on your tie. Can we have a...
Don't worry, no, you don't
I'd
need
like
one.
to, please. So people
No, it's no problem.
I'm going to anyway, so...
I've screwed it up before. You see, all you do is you just get this little clippy thing. Why do they do this? I mean... Oh, it's broken. Oh, it's broken. Well, there we are.
There's somebody coming here who probably knows what...
Why isn't it just a crocodile clip, like we know, you know? This appears to have broken.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Let's take this away and I'll use this one. That's great. Hate these things. Anyway, thanks.
I thought he was going to sit down then and take over from me. Right, come on.
That's right, that's great.
Carry on, Felix.
I've forgotten what we were talking about. I've got a short attention deficit disorder. What were you talking... Did you hear Britain's favourite joke? It was in The Week. Did you hear Britain's favourite joke?
No, I didn't.
Would you like to hear it, David?
I would, and these people would as well, yeah.
That's good.
Do you publish that?
It's in The Week. Yeah, I published The Week. OK, here's Britain's favourite joke. It was voted on. It was voted on all across Britain. Tens of thousands of people voted as their favourite joke. You've got to imagine that we're in an old-fashioned universe. There is a bus with an upstairs and a downstairs, and there's still a bus conductor. I know that's ridiculous, but you know, just to pretend that. So let me see. this lady gets on the bus from the bus stop and sits down with her baby on the long seat. And the man that was standing behind her at the bus stop walks past and stops and turns around to her and says, I'm terribly sorry to tell you this, lady, but that is the ugliest baby I have ever seen. That is an incredibly ugly baby, madam. And then he just walks on and sits down on the seats. Not unnaturally, this woman is enraged. Absolutely enraged. I mean, she's trembling with rage. The bus conductor comes up and says, tickets, please. Are you all right? Is there something wrong? She said, that man who just got on at the same stop as me has insulted me in a manner that you would not possibly believe. And for 2 pence, I would go and give him a piece of my mind. He said, well, what did he say? She said, never mind, never mind. For 2 pence, he said, look, madam, if you feel that strongly about it, he said, maybe you should go and tell him off. Look, I'll hold your monkey and you go and tell him off. That's Britain's favourite joke.
That wasn't your question, though, was it?
Sorry. Can you remind me, we had a slight attention deficit disorder.
I've forgotten where we are, actually, so if you just ask that question again.
Yeah, just ask the question again.
Or ask a different one if you can't remember.
Oh, no, what was it? Just help me. Where was I?
When do you know when to make an about turn?
Right, OK.
Right, there you are.
In this book here, there is a chapter called Never, Never, Never Give In. And it's a useful phrase. But I realised a long time ago that this never giving in has some caveats. In other words, there's no point in just going on doing the same thing that you've been doing that means you've been, you're failing. So while you never give in on your goal, where you're trying to reach, what you're trying to do, i.e. make more money than your neighbour, you might have to change the methodology. If something isn't working, then what sorts the man or woman that is going to be rich from the man or woman that is just going to have tried it once, failed, and dream about it, is your ability, as with all human activity, to adapt. So you're going to say, OK, this isn't working. We got to change our methodology. We've got to change direction. We've got to try something else that's going to make this damn thing work. And if you're willing to do that and keep trying, listening to everybody that you know who's got any kind of sense, whatever, that you trust within, this particular industry or whatever, and if you're willing to change until it starts working, then they cannot stop you, for the very simple reason that in the end, you will get it right. And I had to do that many, many times. Many of the magazines I started were complete dogs. They're absolutely useless. And we all got together and we talked about it, and we started to listen to our readers, and we realized that what we were doing was completely wrong. And it's amazing how often entrepreneurs get the right idea and the wrong methodology and just go about it completely wrong. So, I mean, if you look at Steve Jobs and Apple, here is one of the richest men in America, literally a business genius. I mean, let's face it, the guy's unbelievable. In 1984, Steve Jobs owned the personal computer industry. He owned it. Lock, stock, barrel. There wasn't anyone to touch him. IBM? You're joking. HP? Forget him. What are you talking about? Dell? Didn't exist. Next? No one. So what does Steve do? Steve says, I'm never going to share my operating system. I'm never going to license it. I'm owning all the hardware. I'm owning all the software. I'm making it all. I'm going to make all the printers. And you're never going to be able to connect to any rubbish other technology. IBM buried him. They buried him. He had it all in his hand. Do you understand? All of it. Today, Apple isn't worth 5% of the personal computer market. It could have had 100% for 40 years. Because he would not adapt. And amazingly, a huge organization like IBM did adapt. And they buried him.
Tell us, I'm intrigued. What's the worst magazine you've ever published, in your opinion?
There's a magazine called PS. Please don't ask me what it was about.
In that case...
It was a women's magazine called PS. It was an absolute... I tried to create a catalogue for women that was a magazine. Yeah, it sounds like crap, doesn't it? You know, didn't work. But I spent a fortune. I spent about £2 million on it.
How long ago did that cease publication?
About 10 years.
A lot of people in this room nodded when you said the name.
Yeah, right.
I keep thinking I know what you're going to say in response to this, and then you say something else which makes me think... Well, you say something else which makes me think, well, actually, maybe you'd say the other thing, and maybe it's kind of degrees between the two. Okay. How far would you say that making money is an end and a goal in itself, or alternatively, how far would you say that, from your own experience and from the experience of the people that you've seen and that you've worked with, being really good at something that you really care about is something that brings along the success and the money that goes with it?
You remember rule 2. Number 2, there's only the second reason for not being rich. You know, I want to be rich, but I have other priorities. What it sounds to me like your other priorities is being really good at something you really love. I mean, I employ these people. You know, I have master joiners making me beautiful furniture. They absolutely love the fact they have a patron that will pay them what most of you would think is a ridiculous amount of money to make what really is antiques for the future. What they're doing for me is they're making antiques that will be bought in the future. And they're doing something incredibly difficult, incredibly skilled, that almost no one else could do. And they love every minute of it. But what chance have they of getting rich? 0. So you must choose. You sound to me like you're a torn person, brother. If you want to get rich, then dump all this stuff about doing what you want to do and what you love and start going after the main man. If, on the other hand, you've got something you really want to do and you really want to be good at it and recognized by your peers as being good at it, then that's perhaps the course that you should take. It's like, you know, some of the best movies ever made, the cameramen were geniuses. Did you ever hear of a billionaire cameraman? No. Did you ever hear of a billionaire movie producer? Yes.
Can you just share what is it that you really love, that you want to do, and then Felix will tell you whether you can be rich?
Actually, it was more of an abstract question than a personal question, but it's, I think that is probably the best answer. It's partly motivated by having seen and read a number of people in this kind of environment or through books in the same category of the shelves as yours. People saying, you cannot just pursue money for its own sake. You must find something that you can do and do that better.
Let me just tell you about the people that write these books, okay? These are people that never made a million anything. The people that write these books like, Become a Millionaire in Your Sleep, How to Become a Genghis Khan Wall Street Warrior. Let me tell you about these a-holes. They never made a million anything. They never even made a million Smarties. They're worthless scum. Useless ticks. And those millionaires and billionaires that do write books, they don't write them. They're ghost-written. Yeah, they are. They're ghost-written. You don't think that Donald Trump actually bothers to sit and write anything, do you? Probably doesn't know what the alphabet is. You know, let's get real. You know, I'm not remotely interested in leading people on and creating a kind of you know, some kind of mystique about all this nonsense. In the end, if you want too much money, then make a decision that you do want it and go out there and get it, brother. And nothing can stop you. I swear that to you. Nothing in this earth can stop you apart from death. Nothing.
We're going to take 3 more questions, and then other questions can carry on outside. There's one question there, one question there, and one question there.
4 then.
4. We'll take the 4.
He's a hard man, isn't he?
Well, I'd love to carry on, but you've got some books to sign and we've got some wine to drink, and they might close the cinema.
Yeah. I doubt it.
OK, I'm happy. I've got a meeting at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. I'm happy.
Don't worry, my chauffeur is here. They won't close the cinema.
OK. I believe you.
You can meet Lloyd later. 7 foot of solid muscle.
Thank you. Is it just me or can anyone? Yes. Sort of the back there.
I live very firmly by the policy that you should never, you never regret something you did. You only regret something you never did. And for that, and I firmly want to start my own business and I sort of ideally make myself get very rich through it. And I also agree with you that we should be doing something now where we are sort of trying to get as much benefit, so working through another company and reaping it for all we can to learn as much as we can. But when do you know that sort of ultimate moment that you've sort of learned as much as you can to be able to actually go out there? Is it all about having the guts to sort of leave the hamster wheel that I believe we are all in when we're sort of receiving salary checks on a monthly basis?
Well, you are on a hamster wheel. How long have you been at this? How long have you been in the business you're in now?
Where I am currently, 8 months.
And the one before that?
4 years.
That's enough. You're finished.
You mean she's ready to start, you mean?
You're ready to start.
Yeah.
You're finished now. Time to start. Time to start now. Right now.
So when
this minute, from this minute, even though you're going to go on working to them to get through Christmas so you can pay for the Christmas presents, even though you're going to do that, you should make the decision now that it's over.
When Felix said that to you, you sat right back in your chair. What were you feeling when he said that to you?
I suppose you need to be told by somebody. You know, ultimately, there are lots of us out there that want to do this, and there are lots of people that will die never having done the thing that they really wanted to do. But I think a lot of people just need to have somebody say, do it.
The great thing that you got going for you today that wasn't going several hundred years ago, and what has made entrepreneurialism possible, is that you cannot be arrested and thrown into prison for debt. This is a wonderful thing. Only 150 years ago...
You almost persuaded her before you started this story.
You know, when Dickens was writing, when Charles Dickens was writing, not only could you be imprisoned for debt, you could be tortured for debt. Next time you start pointing the finger at Muslim countries, just remember what this country used to do to debtors. Never mind people from another continent or many other continents. Their own people. So, let me get this right. They can't torture you. They can't throw you in prison. And all that can happen is your friends laugh at you. And your enemies. Well, a pox on them. So where's the downside?
Bankruptcy.
Oh, shocking. Bankruptcy. Oh, really shocking. I am truly shocked. Bankruptcy. You go in and out of bankruptcy these days in about 9 months. Who cares if you go in and out of bankruptcy? Look, do your best not to go bankrupt and always pay the little people. Make sure that you end up owing the big money to the banks and the big vendors with lots of money. Make sure that the receptionist that you employed gets paid. Make sure that you don't stiff anybody. Be as honourable as you can. Then start again the next day.
You say that to someone in the construction industry and they're probably going to lose their legs.
I'm not in the construction industry. And I don't want to be.
Can you carry that one on outside, please?
Yes, right, we will.
Yes.
We will. We'll carry on that outside.
Somebody up here. Yes, right, while you're waiting for the microphone there, I think this gentleman here's got a microphone.
When is it working? Yeah. When and how and why will you decide to retire? And what will happen to your company? I mean, do you have a succession plan? Are you going to sell it, float it, hand it over to anybody you meet in the street, people who like poetry or whatever?
You like poetry?
I love poetry.
Yeah. You like poetry? Yeah. His poetry particularly, yeah.
The trouble is that he's not a real believer in poetry. This is the problem. He's mocking it by being polite about it. And is there anyone in the audience that didn't have a mother? Interesting. Here is a poem that I teach my godchildren to tell their mothers, and they can do so in front of me, so they can't be smacked. Well, they can't be smacked anyway. To mock their own mothers and fathers. Nothing like a little bit of mockery with love behind it. All the angels up in heaven hang their shining heads to cry. Even Santa Claus grows solemn when you tell your mom a lie. I'm sorry, that was the American bit, Mom. Sorry. when you tell your mum a lie. And the fairies in the garden who bring silver for your tooth, they will tell you, if you ask them, always tell your mum the truth. Of course. If you don't believe in fairies, or that reindeer ever flew, you might murmur 3 Hail Marys for the lies your mum told you. Now, let's move on to making money. Come on, I want to hear questions about making money.
Any questions?
I want people
about making money.
Let's make some money around here.
If it isn't, word it in that way. Yeah.
Going back to your point about how you have to want to make money more than your other priorities, don't you think the counter argument to that is that you need other priorities to give you the idea as to how to make money? If you have no skill sets that you've practiced because you have something that you really want to do, then what are you going to do to make your money in the first place?
Well,
good question.
It's a bloody good question. The trouble is she's been to university. And I can tell that immediately. You've been to university, right?
I'm doing a one-year study abroad program at LSE.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I never did any of that. I'm a self-taught man. I taught myself. Truly, right now, I'm the 2 books by the side of my bed are, Marcuse, a philosopher, and I'm reading Meditations. So I've taught myself how to be a reasonable human being in the Western democratic mould. And I think that's very important. I think it's great to be able to sort of understand the fantastic wealth that the world has produced in the written world. I really think it's important. I do. I'm not mocking it. I absolutely love it. Sometimes when I read French poetry from the 16th century, I cry. But I don't care about any of that when I'm making money. Maybe I'm schizophrenic. Call me what you want. But when I'm making money, that doesn't apply. That doesn't count. I don't care if the guy in front of me has been to university or not. I don't care if he knows words like tripartite or not. All I care about is this. How much money has he got? How much of it can I get? What will I have to give to him to get it? This is appalling. And believe me, being an entrepreneur is appalling. Capitalism is appalling. The only trouble is that it has vanquished every other system ever known to man. Now, eventually, we will all become a cross between Gandhi and Nelson Mandela. I'm completely sure of it. But not now, brothers and sisters. Not right now.
Right, I think we've got one more, and then we're going to... yes, there's one there, and then you'll stay for a while.
We're all going to be civilly disobedient and start smoking inside the auditorium.
Chap there in the middle there with the microphone. Thank you.
Felix.
I'll just wipe my brow.
Felix, I just want to ask, I'm just here in the middle.
It's just there, right there.
Okay, gotcha.
Right,
gotcha,
in your early days, I just wanted to ask this question. What would you identify as your 3 key success habits?
Oh, excellent. That's a bloody good question.
That's a good one to end on as well.
It's so pitiful when you're getting a salary, isn't it? We're all having so much fun, and now it's his job to drive us out. That's an excellent question. Can I ask you what you do, sir? Would you mind if I did that?
Yes, I'm a chartered surveyor. I then set up my own company, jumped out of the rat race, which I did for 5 years, and actually failed miserably in it.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm now wanting to get back in there, but it's this sort of courageous...
But you're still earning a bit of money on the charter surveyor front to keep you afloat, so to speak?
Just, yeah. Yes, I am, yeah.
That's the wonderful thing, of course, about going to university, going to colleges, getting professional degrees. It always gives you something to fall back on. And there's absolutely no question about it, And in some cases, it can make you braver than you would be otherwise, because there is always something to fall back on. Yeah. But on the other hand, it also means that you don't give the last 3%, because if you fail, you have something to fall back on. I never had anything to fall back on. The three. State your question exactly again. The three.
3 key success habits. Apart from enjoying it.
First thing is, most of the people that got fantastically rich in the Western world in the last couple of 100 years were not very clever. They don't have to be clever. They just have to be utterly determined. That will carry you through. Determination, perseverance, believe in yourself, even when you're wrong. Even when it's obvious you're wrong. Even when the people who love you tell you, darling, you're wrong. That's the first habit. You're not wrong. Not if you believe you're not. What's the second habit? Work. Work right. By God, when I was 25 years old, I could work like 16 hours a day. Go out, have a meal, curry, a couple of beers, straight home, bed, up, back, 16 hours. Out, Soho, curry, 2 beers, go to bed, up, out. It was terrifying to watch. When I think back about it now, I come out in a cold sweat. I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I did that. But I did do it. And I kept doing it. And I failed again and again and again. I never went bankrupt, but only because it wasn't worth bankrupting me. It's the only reason I never went bankrupt. Nobody could be bothered to do it. But I kept working. Wouldn't stop. Never did stop. And my dear lover, Mary France, will tell you, I never have stopped. Maybe that's not such a good thing, but it will absolutely make you one of the richest men or women in your own country, wherever you are. Third habit. Let's think about third habit. I know what it is. Fear nothing. Fear nothing. I'm a poet and philosopher now. Meet a lot of people. Make sure I do. Not too long ago, I met a very interesting Catholic priest. Good man. Works damn hard and doesn't mess about with children. Fantastic bloke. Totally changed my ideas, really, about what being a Catholic priest is. Seriously. It was interesting. In the end, I had to turn to him and say, you know, look, you believe one thing, you know, that there is, you know, a God, kindly or not, or whatever, judgmental or not. You know, there's a book that's got truths written in it. I mean, I can point out to you, Father, that I could show you 25 other books that have other truths written in them. So somebody's got to be wrong. But leaving the book question aside, you know, we're going to die, right? All of us. You're going to die. You, right there, you're going to die. You see you with the pretty hair? You're going to die. You're going to die. You, right there with the red tie, you're going to die. I'm going to die. If you're going to die, why would you fear anything? It's only a thought. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that you're all going to get a free book. I just want to say one thing for self-advertising. Always promote your own product. Just remember this. I can give you a lot more books while I'm signing them for you at very, very reasonable prices. We've cut the prices ridiculously. You know, it's not the $16.99 that the wretched publishers say it is. And it's going to be much cheaper. And think of this. Christmas is coming. You have sons, daughters, brothers, aunts, uncles, you have grandparents, and you have grandchildren, and I would be happy to sign their books as well. And that is the only reason I came, so that you would take away with you more than one bloody book. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for a lovely evening. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
If you enjoyed listening to this event, you can find details of other forthcoming events at www.londonbusinessforum.com or by phoning us on 020 7626 9001.